I wasn't sure what happened or why everyone in my family stopped talking, but it was starting to freak me out. My house was always filled with noise. If I wasn't waking up to the sound of my two sisters fighting, I was being dragged from my bed by my dad wanting me to help him sand the boat he was building. It started on Sunday when I woke to an eerie silence in the house. Usually my mother had me up early for pancakes, but she never called me for breakfast. At first I thought everyone had left. But when I went downstairs, my mother was in the kitchen. "Why didn't you call me?" I asked. She barely turned around, only glancing at me through the corner of her eye. "Mom, what's the matter with you?" She didn't even turn around to acknowledge me, just continued doing what she was doing. Did I do something to upset her? I thought as I just sat there bewildered at my mother's strange behavior. I'd been getting in trouble lately with people in the neighborhood who didn't take kindly to me playing or riding my bike up and down the street. It was harmless, but the neighbors didn't seem to like kids playing in the street. But my parents never really scolded me over it. My dad was sitting in his chair in the sitting room with the TV off. He tried his best not to look at me, which started to worry me. "What's wrong with Mom?" I asked. My dad and I were really close. We were like best friends. Until I stepped out of line, that is. But 99% of the time, he was great. So I was even more confused when he looked away from me without answering. "Why won't you answer me? Have I done something to upset you?" I could see by the distressed look on his face that ignoring me the way he was bothered him, which only freaked me out even more. I ran up the stairs to my sister's room. The only time they liked talking to me was when they were tormenting me. But if I'd done something wrong to piss my parents off, they would be the first to tell me. I knocked on my sister's door, but no response. I could hear them talking in the room. I opened the door to find them sitting on their beds with the same strange look on their faces my parents had. "Not you too? What is wrong with everyone today? Have I done something?" They sat there trying not to look at me. "If this is some prank you're all in on, stop it because you're starting to scare me." They continued to sit there nervously making eye contact with each other. I picked up one of their shoes and threw it at Becky's head. She flinched as the shoe made contact, but didn't utter a word. Any other day she would have trashed me. Later that evening, things took a turn for the weirder. I had come downstairs to find them all in the kitchen. My mom was cutting up vegetables while my two sisters and my dad sat at the kitchen table. They sat there not saying a word, and had the same strange look on their faces. "Can you please stop this now? It's not funny." All they did was look at each other, trying their best not to acknowledge my existence. I was more than freaked out at this stage. "Mom, I love you," I said as I tried putting my arms around her. As she tried to move away from me, the knife in her hand slipped slicing into her finger. "Mom, your finger, there's blood everywhere." I could see the pain in her face, but she just continued cutting the vegetables in silence. "Dad, aren't you going to say something? She's bleeding." It felt like I had woken up in a terrifying alternate dimension where nothing made sense. The fear I was now feeling was palatable, and what made it worse, no one seemed to care. I felt alone for the first time in my life. That night, as I lay in my room wondering why my life had taken a terrifying turn, I heard someone moving around outside my door. I jumped from my bed and was about to go check when a note slipped through the bottom of my door. "They're watching us. Your loving sister Becky." The next morning I went downstairs to the kitchen. My mom, dad, and my sister Casey were sitting at the table whispering to each other, but went quiet as soon as I walked in. "Where's Becky?" I asked. They sat there silent, but the expressions on their faces told me something terrible had happened to her. "Who's watching us?" As I stood there, I burst into tears. "Please tell me what's happening. I'm scared." I looked at my mom and then at my dad, but they just sat there trying their best to not make eye contact with me. Something had happened to my sister and I needed to help her. I picked up the phone and dialed 911. "Hello, what's your emergency?" "My name is Adam Best. I live at 13 Armenting Street. I think my sister has been kidnapped." I could hear the operator breathing on the other end of the phone, but they didn't say a word. "Hello, did you hear me?" I asked. Suddenly a deafening crackle sounded through the phone before it went silent. I could run away, I thought to myself as I sat on my bed. I was troubled by the note my sister gave me. Who's watching us and who are they? I thought when suddenly something caught my eye. I was surprised I hadn't noticed it before. There was a small camera, barely visible, nestled in the upper corner of my room. My heart started pounding as I realized my every move was being watched. I covered the camera with a piece of cloth and sat back down, trying to think. Suddenly the lights in my room flickered and then went out, plunging me into darkness. My door burst open and standing in the doorway were my mom, dad, and my sister Casey. "We are sorry for ignoring you. We were trying to protect you, but now you need to run. They are coming for you." "Who's coming for me?" I cried. "The neighborhood watch." I grabbed my bike from the shed and took off down the street. All the neighbors stood on their porches watching me as I cycled for my life. All that was running through my mind was the thoughts of never seeing my family again.